All right, welcome to John Bowne Politics, episode number 17. And today the spotlight is shining down on Roseanne Barr. It's the story that the country will not let up on. Why? Why? Well, because it gets under everyone's skin. Pun intended. Yeah. Roseanne said something that was untoward, and I'm not going to defend that. But she also got 12 million viewers per episode, and she put up a show that spotlighted the dialogue that goes on in most middle-class homes, or what's left of them. So wouldn't they being them, those people, the left, wouldn't they want the middle class on their side? Wouldn't they want those votes to keep on coming, for that plantation to still be filled with brainwashed voting hordes? And the ridiculous thing is that Roseanne Barr made her tweet. She didn't even say it on air. She didn't say it on her show. Apparently, her show, actually just binge-watched her show, and I was pretty impressed by all the writing. The freshness of something on television that supersedes all of the shallowness coming out of California, all of the 90210-ish shows with all the shiny, happy people ignoring the world's problems, ignoring the propaganda, and then inserting the propaganda every once in a while just so we know who's boss and who's in charge. I just read Keisha, the Satanist pop star, is now going to get up on her soapbox and talk to us about politics. She is not qualified to talk about politics. Why would Keisha be qualified to talk to anybody about politics? Keisha, if you're out there listening, which God, I hope you're not, but if you are, please call this show. You can email me at this point. I haven't gotten the call thing set up, and when I do, it's going to be epic because I can't wait to get whoever I can get on this show. People calling in and voicing their opinion, asking me whatever they want, me asking them whatever I want. But for the time being, you can reach me at my Twitter at newsbowne. You can reach me at dailynewscollective.com. You can reach me at John Bowne Politics on YouTube. And you can reach me at John Bowne Reports on YouTube. Keisha, I'm calling you out. I want you to study up. I want you to read those Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution. I want you to know who wrote it, mostly. And I want you to know what the Magna Carta is. I want you to know all of the basic principles, the fundamentals that go along with you standing up and explaining to me what's going on in politics today. This will never happen. Anyway, we live in a culture now that is fizzling as far as free speech is concerned. Now, the First Amendment gives us free speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech used to be something where if I said something and it went out into the public arena, as it were, and enough people with common sense batted down what I said rather than supported it, then I had something to fear from what I would say. Now, just by speaking the truth right now, I'm going to be batted down, or could be batted down, by the left and their vast media monster that is engulfing our culture, sucking it down into a pit of hell. Case in point, Obama recently, speaking about Trump, actually said that Trump was a lot like Hitler.
Anyway, President Obama still has Trump on his mind. Tuesday, he spoke to the Economic Club of Chicago, where Crain's columnist Greg Huns noted a startling comparison of Trump to Hitler. Huns paraphrases what he heard President Obama say. We have to tend to this garden of democracy or else things could fall apart quickly. That's what happened in Germany in the 1930s, which, despite the democracy of the Weimar Republic and centuries of high-level cultural and scientific achievements, Adolf Hitler rose to dominate. 60 million people died. So you got to pay attention and vote.
We live in a society now where the left can say whatever they want and they'll be supported. Like Samantha Bee, who recently said this.
Let me just say, one mother to another, do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
You feckless C-word, she said to the daughter of the President of the United States on her show, and believes she'll be supported by the left. That's okay to say things like that, like Joy Behar did.
Apologize to tens of millions of Americans who were equally offended.
So I think Vice President Pence is right. I was raised to respect everyone's religious faith, and I fell short of that. I sincerely apologize for what I said.
Yeah, and now they have to apologize. Now the strings of apologies come out. You think it's going to stop them from their madness? No. Why? Because we live in a culture of a double standard, complete hypocrisy when it comes to race. It's all right for a black man to make fun of white people as if we're this substandard race while they're on stage, and they have every right to speak down about white people, just generalize white people as a race. When most Americans are mutts. I myself am Filipino-Irish. Okay, so if you're insulting me as a white person because you're black, it doesn't make any sense. I grew up in America. I'm just as American as you. What you're doing is you are attacking your fellow Americans. Here's an example of a black comedian thinking it's all right to talk about white people.
White people, that's why I study y'all, envy y'all. I'm envious of y'all. Y'all are a race. Y'all do whatever the fuck y'all want to do. Y'all are free. Y'all are the only race of people that could look at a wild lion and go, I can be friends with that.
Now, he says you're the only race that could look at a wild lion and say, I could be friends with that. And then the nervous white people in the crowd are supposed to respond by nervously laughing, yeah, he right. And then the black folks in the crowd are supposed to respond just as controlled as the white people by saying, yeah, he right. Well, black people, Africans, are the ones that cohabitate with lions on the African continent. What the hell is he talking about? But here we've accepted this culture where we can attack race, where it's acceptable for the left to attack our president. Show a picture of him being beheaded. Call him Hitler. Call his daughter a C-word. Where it's all right for a black comedian to talk about the white race. But it's not all right for Roseanne Barr to make a comment she can't even defend. She hasn't even been allowed to defend it. She defended it on Twitter. She said she was on Ambien. It became more and more ridiculous. But judging by her show, there was diversity on her show. She was hitting on topics that none of us are going to talk about, much less the left. So why not give her a second chance since she was creating a narrative that wasn't there before? And the other question is, will there be a show like Roseanne? Will there now, since with all that success, will there be another, quote, conservative, quote, right, quote, anti-left? I'm going to put the air quotes away and I'm just going to say, will somebody do a show on the reality of America right now? Or are we going to still live like we're in a cave looking out at the rising sun? Okay. Just stir that around in your brain for a minute, or a long hour, or an entire day. Our culture is in big, big trouble. And the threat is coming from all walks of life. Now, of course, I'm not an Islamophobe, but the truth is the truth. And after the break, I'm going to speak to politicalislam.com founder and author Dr. Bill Warner about Turkey's threat in becoming a great caliphate. Just as far as the Palestinian situation and also what this means for the Islamic Caliphate and its growth.
Well, where it goes from here, if the past is any indicator, we'll be picking this scab for another 1,000 years. That is they're not going to slack up. On the other hand, I'm tickled to see that the U.S. government was willing to do something that irritates jihadis. It gives evidence of a foreign policy with some backbone. Some people don't remember, but the embassy rule was passed by Congress and the Senate years ago.
Yeah, hasn't it been kicked around now for 50 years?
Something like that. So Trump finally says, well, let's just do it.
Right.
We're a sovereign nation. We'll put our embassy where we want it.
As far as the growing caliphate, what are the hot spots? I know they want to take Italy by 2020. Do you think that's a possibility? And what, as far as you know, what is the current situation in Turkey?
There's something which I call the gravity of Muhammad. Muslims may move away from Muhammad, but ultimately they'll be pulled back into his orbit. Historically, Ataturk tried to suppress what we would call Islam by various and sundry methods, one of which is to put in the army as a counterbalance to the imams. Well, Ataturk is now formally dead. Erdogan is really finished off Ataturk, and he wants to bring forth Turkey as basically not a Western nation, but as an Islamic nation. So that's the big picture. And the thing that I admire about Islam is they have infinite patience. You talk about will it be done by 2020? It doesn't matter whether it's done by 2020 or 2120. Once they put something in mind, they don't stop. One of the mistakes you make in dealing with Islam and its demands is to think, well, if we give them this, they'll be happy and satisfied. I mean, Muhammad was never satisfied until all submitted to Islam.
Immigration is the top issue facing Europe. What have you noticed lately regarding that? Any new thoughts on Europe and its decline?
Well, you've used the right word, decline, because Europe no longer has the backbone to be a sovereign state. A sovereign nation controls its borders and its currency. Well, they may still control currency for a while, but they don't control their borders. Nor do they seem to be bothered by this. You have to understand that the left wants this to happen, and the left is very powerful in both Italy and France. I
wonder if you've ever read The Naked Communist.
I have not. Sounds like a good title.
Yeah. It's a book by Cleon Skousen, and he basically goes through the 45 secret tenets of the Communist Party and what they need to do in order to achieve a communist takeover of the United States. Just about every one of those goals have been reached. Do you see a marriage between communist ideology and Islam?
Not a permanent marriage, but a temporary marriage. You have to understand that both the communists and the Muslims are idealist utopians. So the beauty is in the idea. Implemented may not work out so well, but as one communist I was talking to said, I said, so many people died under communism in the 20th century, and she said, oh, that wasn't real communism. Real communism has never been tried. So aside from that, they're utopian. So the utopian left wants to bring down Europe as a culture, and Islam wants to bring it down as a culture, so they look at each other and say, well, we're on the same page here. What the left does not realize is that when they're no longer useful, they will be disposed of. 5 days, the Tudor party, the left party, and the Communist Party in Iran was responsible for Khomeini coming into Iran. It took him 5 days to issue death warrants to all Tudor party leaders. They were now disposable and useless, so therefore they were taken care of. The same thing will happen here.
What is your take on the dissolution or the reemergence of a possible reemergence of a new nuke deal with Iran?
I only wish the people who are negotiating deals with Muslims understood their doctrine on agreements. No agreement signed by any Muslim is good for any longer than a period than 10 years. So all treaties are temporary. Islamic doctrine says that a kafir you enter into a contract of peace with a kafir if and only if you don't have power enough right now to get the job done. Use the period of the peace treaty in order to strengthen yourself. So that's the doctrine that lies behind all treaties and contracts. But I don't think anybody in the State Department even knows this knowledge exists. So therefore they come up with concepts like a permanent treaty. Well, if it's dealing with Islam, their secret rule is 10 years is as long as we give anybody a treaty for. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. You can always find us at dailynewscollective.com, at blahblahshow.com, on YouTube at Jon Bowne Politics, on gab.ai at Jon Bowne Politics, and Twitter @NewsBound.